know it's been a while, had to get the style right. Went into overdrive, flying through them red lights. Been about this life like I'm writing my story, picking up where I left off like the people before me. The cycle never ends, my journey about to begin. They already know my name, but I'm only settling in. A breath of fresh air is all that I need. Trying to unlock potential, I'm on the search for the keys. Inner peace is what keeps my chakra flowing. Meditate in the avatar state and seize the moment. Slay omens, we only bring good vibes. When you lost in the dark, good music guides. Reach inside, bring your whole soul alive. Fuel the fire, make some noise if you inspired. Yeah, I hope you know the sky's never been the limit. Remember that the greatest ain't always the first to finish. Close my eyes and imagine where I wanna be. Never too busy to come home and rock it locally. Getting high off these bars, check the potency. Spreading love is what hip-hop's supposed to be. Close my eyes and imagine where I wanna be. Never too busy to come home and rock it locally. Getting high off these bars, check the potency. Spreading love is what hip-hop's supposed to be. New beginnings, I'm taking this life in stride. Surrounded by love, damn it's good to be alive. Reviving fallen souls that wanna listen to me. Follow your dreams, become what you wanted to be. That's what I've done since day one. I come with realness. On the way to the top, ride the flying nimbus. I'm mad ambitious, third eye with the visions. Bars so sweet over beats too delicious. Chasing riches, never worry about the bills. I just wanna write this music and polish my skills. Take notes and slope will leave you slipping. Knowledge is everywhere, all we gotta do is listen. Close my eyes and imagine where I wanna be. Never too busy to come home and rock it locally. Getting high off these bars, check the potency. Spreading love is what hip-hop's supposed to be. Close my eyes and imagine where I wanna be. And imagine where I wanna be.
Hello, hello, welcome to Highlander Worlds. So, we got a great weekend ahead of us.
I'm so excited. Day one, tournament one, and shortly round one.
Absolutely. 205, 207 players in the room, I believe, today. So, we got plenty of magic. 8 rounds, high-powered Highlander magic, then a top 8. Then we're coming back tomorrow as well. So, plenty of magic this weekend. We got a good one in round one. On one side, we've got Volty, well-known streamer. We've actually got a streamer battle off here.
Yeah, we do.
Volty, one of the well-known Highlander streamers on our committee as well, known for playing a huge range of decks. She brought something special today. She's got a really low-to-the-ground Boros deck. Very fast, very aggressive. And on the other side, the spicier deck, I think. Dougal, better known as Doogs on Twitch. He's well known for playing lands across all formats, I'd say, especially a legacy specialist, but we've seen him dabble in modern and more recently getting into Highlander. He's got an Abzan lands deck, but there's something special about it. In the sideboard, you'll find a Yorion. Getting the Sky Noodle Companion. So then the main deck, not just 80 cards, by the way. 81 cards. He said 80? No, we can do better than that.
Why stop there?
Exactly.
Keep
and
going.
You'll see here our players as we head down to the feature match, just doing deck list review.
He actually has a scroll. It's a tome that keeps unfurling.
Yeah.
To show all the cards in his deck.
Yeah, we had to, those deck list pages, for those of you who played open deck list, you get your whole deck list printed out so you can show it to your opponent. In Highlander, that's always interesting because it's a lot of cards to look at once. When your opponent plays Yorion and has to hand you 2 pages at once, as you say, it should just be a scroll, just unrolls. So, going to be some very interesting magic coming up here. Volty on the right-hand side of our screen with that Boros aggro deck, going to be looking to get out really fast, I think. This deck loves to put pressure on from turn 1. There's fast mana. There's all the best aggressive creatures. It's like watching Modern, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly like Boros and Modern. Yeah. All the Modern Horizons 3 cards will be dominating here. We've seen Volty just kick and crush skulls with basic planes in all sorts of flavors. And recently she was on Mardu. Last year she was doing all sorts of nonsense with mono white.
Yes.
And today we're seeing her cut the swamps to play red white. And I'm excited to see how close or how deep into the top 8 she goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking to Volty before this tournament, she said she had played around with all sorts of different Mardu color combinations because there's a lot of really powerful, aggressive cards in those colors, but trying to work out which colors you want to prioritize is really difficult. Whether you want to be red-black, black-white, red-white, some combination of all 3 colors. But in the end, she said the black cards, a lot of the most powerful black cards are pointed.
That's right, yeah.
And you have really good ways to spend your points anyway. And then after that, the best black cards, she's pointed to Douthie Voidwalker, Thoughtseize, obviously, but also Croxus she was really high on. And she said the problem was the black cards are really black intensive. Douthie Voidwalker is double black, Crox is double black. And so if you play those, your mana gets a lot worse. And you can't really play Blood Moon. You can't play Magus to the Moon as effectively. So in the end, clean and simple, 2 color, getting out on the front foot as aggressively and consistently as possible.
Yeah, Volty's theory crafting is always so on point. It's very easy to just go super deep and, abstract and come up with your own bullschlacher. But she actually, she's paying attention and her work is always, rooted in reality. She hosts VFNs, she plays endless amounts. She thinks about the format. She's part of the committee. So, she knows what she's doing when she makes these changes. And, I think Thalia is quite possibly a pointed card down the line. And getting to... I think that's one of the tactics that a lot of people have discussed is that when you play these tournaments, you want to look back a year later and be like, my deck's gotten 5 or 6 points since then. And that means I know I was onto something pretty powerful there. So I think, seeing things like Cloud and probably, I imagine there's a Skull Clamp in here somewhere.
There sure is a Skull Clamp in here, that great combination. Yeah, you're right. That is always the goal. When you build your deck, you think in 12 months from now, how many points is this deck going to be? That's the goal. And you're right on Volty. She plays a huge amount of Magic. She coaches as well a number of really strong players in Melbourne and Victoria. So just a huge breadth of experience, I would say, with a lot of different decks across a lot of formats, but especially I would say Highlander is probably her focus, her feature. On the other hand, Dougal, or Doogs as he's known on Twitch, is kind of the opposite. Very experienced in a much more narrow, he's got a great experience with lands decks of all types across all formats, but this is very much his wheelhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember playing against Doogs, a decade ago in Legacy, and he's playing the same cards, doing the same nonsense, same mischief.
There is a lot of the cards in lands that are the same from 10 years ago. I will say, a big one recently, and we see it in Doogs' hand there, is Enlightened Tutor. This card recently went to 0. It's been 1 point for the longest time, but now this is one of the decks. We'll get to it later, but there's a lot of Underworld Breach in the room as well.
Yes.
We'll see that, another card that loves free Enlightened Tutor. But in lands, It sets up your Zero and Orb combos.
Yeah,
it sets up all of those, fast bond. It finds all your most powerful cards.
Yep.
And it is just a really powerful addition to this deck.
Yep. All right, so get started into this game. So fetch, and then we've got a Stadium Headliner, I believe.
We sure do.
So a very aggressive new 1-drop from Tarkia Dragonstorm. Makes another creature when it attacks, and then you can use that, with your Skull Clamp or all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a really powerful card. There's lots of things you can do with a token that sits around for a little bit. It attacks for 2 effectively. It can be a removal spell in a pinch. Just a really flexible card. And for these Boros decks, the 1-drop is important. You got to start applying pressure from turn 1 because you know that the decks on the other side are going to be really efficient as well.
Yeah.
And speaking of the other side, we're getting a Surveil land from Dukes. These are a staple of our format now.
Absolutely.
They are just a fantastic amount of utility. You find them off fetch lands when you have nothing better to do with your mana. Just get a little Surveil, because one card, drawing the right card at the right time in this format can be a huge difference.
Absolutely, yeah. And oftentimes 1 turn is all you need to get back in the game, and the difference between not drawing that card that turn or being forced to draw something you didn't want. So I think I've worked out why there must be a Yorion, because Dukes didn't want to cut any of the cards he's paying for the last 10 years.
Honestly,
so he just kept adding and adding and adding. He got to about 75, and he's like, oh, let's just add the Yorion.
You know what? I've been there. The number of times you sit down to build a new deck, and you just sort of throw all the cards you want to play in, and it's already, 75 cards, and you go, well, I could...
lands yet.
Yeah, exactly. And you go, well, I cut 15 cards, or I could just play this Yorion. Is there much synergy in my deck for Yorion? I mean, not necessarily, but, all the other companions are pointed. So this one's probably pretty good too,
Sure.
And then you have to sleeve it up and play it double sleeved, and you regret it all. That's my experience.
It's a tough time. Okay, so we see another Tarkia Dragonstorm. Mobilized Tribal here. We got Voice of Victory. This is a very powerful new card.
This is probably the most powerful of the mobilized cards, I would say. It basically attacks for 3. It turns off counterspells, which won't be the biggest thing in this matchup. Duke's mostly going to play on his own turn anyway, but it makes... And it's 2 ETB triggers with creatures. It's just doing a lot.
So I think we're responding to this creature. Otherwise, we won't get a chance to cast that Enlightened Tutor.
Yep. So one of the few instances in Duke's deck.
Yep. I'm not sure what we're looking for here. Yep, pick the deck up in half, of course, because it's 500 cards.
Yeah, exactly. The One Ring. That's a pretty good one. That's a nice pointed card to go find with
Point into point. Oh, previous points.
Well, yeah, not anymore. Not anymore. And
this is a 1-point combo, these 2 cards.
And this is the power of Enlightened Tutor, right? We talked about, it sets up your fast bond combo. It puts together all these sort of Zero and Orb, fast bond, crucible combos.
Yep.
But sometimes you don't have those combo pieces.
Yep.
And instead you just get to say, hey, I'm going to go get one of the most rawly powerful cards in my deck.
Yep.
And can't even play it this turn without some sort of mana acceleration, but just, that's going to come down at some point. It's going to be a fog against the aggressive deck, and then it's going to draw a bunch of cards.
Favorite word in the game, fog. So I'm in. I played a little bit of Nadu yesterday, and my opponent had Opposition Agent, and they had Ashiok, and so I couldn't do anything. And I just cast the One Ring and won 5 turns later because I just drew an infinite number of cards. So I think a lot of these decks play it as like an extra little value grindy thing, so that if their game plan A isn't working out, they can just continue to just draw cards. And oftentimes you have to play weird sideboard cards or play off curve to disrupt their deck. And they're just going to use that time to their advantage and just draw a bunch of cards and then just overwhelm you with card advantage, really.
Yeah, it is this really fantastic sort of plan B, as you say, because all these linear decks, they ask your opponent to slow down, to interact with you, as you say, to play a bit strangely.
Yep.
And then you say, oh, you want to play a slower game? Okay, well, I'm just going to put this One Ring in play. I'm going to draw so many cards. You talked about, Ashiok and Opposition Agent as really powerful cards against something like Nadu that loves to tutor. You don't need to worry about that if you just draw 10 cards with your One Ring.
Yep.
And it doesn't ask very much of you. It asks for, ideally, a little bit of life gain is the main thing to offset it, to make sure your One Ring doesn't kill you.
Yep. Or just resetting it.
Or any way to pick it up.
Yep.
I mean, you talked about Philia.
Yep.
That's a way to flicker it.
That's an excellent way to flicker it, yeah.
There's no One Ring in Vi's deck, but I have seen her play the One Ring previously in these sort of Mardu decks and flicker it with Philia. Really sweet land there, as you would expect from the lands deck in Eumidian Hatchery there.
Yes.
It bit of a weird one, right? It puts counters on itself, and it triggers when it goes to the graveyard. You have to work out how to send it to the graveyard yourself, though.
Yes, so Zuran Orb or Knight of the Reliquary, which we just saw die, a bunch of... Yeah, there's a bunch of... I mean, this is a lands deck. This is their whole MO. This is their game plan.
Yeah, look at this. It's a land that you have to find a way to put in the graveyard. That's crazy. How could we ever do that? Oh, never mind. We worked it out. Lion Sash, a really nice one. Some Graveyard Hate.
Yes, I love this card. I love that you can tutor it off of Cloud, or if there's Stoneforge in this list, I absolutely love that.
Yeah, both those
Graveyard Hate as an equipment. It's fantastic.
Both those cards are in the list. You talked about Skull Clamp. That's the pointed equipment. That's the one that goes really well with Cloud. But once you have those two tutors, you start to look at other options. We saw Umezawa's Jitte in Volti's hand earlier.
Yep.
Lion Sash is technically an equipment, even though most of the time it's just a creature. So few different options. And now we see the One Ring come down. This is the big one.
Yeah. Also off of an Urza Saga, so there's another point there. Duke's drawing a lot of points here.
Yep. That is a good way to win games of Highlander.
Yeah.
Draw your points.
Okay. And so now we've got a little bit of reprieve here. We've got one turn of chilling out, going on vacation. And Volti has to work out how to continue applying pressure without possibly overextending or keeping up some sort of interaction if possible.
Yeah, it looks like down to one card in hand. Had to pitch the Ragavan to evoke Fury to make sure that Knight of the Reliquary didn't untap.
Yep.
Was already a 4/4, so starting to struggle for cards in hand, but we see the Surveil land. This is the power of the Surveil lands. There's a Caracas in hand as well. Quite a number of legendary creatures, both in Volti's deck, so you can protect them, but also we will see some legendaries from Doogs as well. And anytime you get to Caracas, your opponent's legendary creature, you feel like you got to have a land with a Terminate on it.
It does feel like cheating. And then once you start combining it with your own creatures, you know, bouncing something that's about to die to removal, bouncing Samwise, any of those sorts of shenanigans, you can really get ahead with just a land.
I think that might actually,
for what?
Although I think that actually might be a Ganjo on second look in the hand for Volti. So removal spell, which is going to be less good in this matchup, given that it has to can only target creatures that are attacking or blocking.
Yep.
Duke's probably not going to do much attacking for a while. Not until maybe with an Indestructible 2020, for example.
Yeah. Well, Duke's under a lot of pressure. Yeah, we gotta do something because Volti probably threatening lethal next turn.
Yeah, you'd think so. Bought that one turn reprieve, but now down to 9 life. You know, if you want to draw, we're effectively at 8 on our next turn with the ring, 7 if we want to activate the ring. There's a Mazavith there, that will help. But notably, not that great against mobilized creatures.
That's correct. They're all shitters. So
yeah, you get to save one life. But it's still a little bit. We can make a token potentially with this Urza Saga. There's a Thoughtseize in the hand, which doesn't look great here. So Dukes is going to say, I'm going to have to draw some more cards. We'll have to find something. Yep. Vampire Hexmage and Keen-Eyed Curator the draws. Couple 2-drops there. Vampire Hexmage blocks surprisingly well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. This is one of the interesting things about a lands deck like this and with the Sky Noodle as well. You've got so many pieces. You've got so many combos like A and B and C and D and 1 and 5. And sometimes you're just drawing multiple different combo pieces. And you've got to like work out how to keep buying time. But this is the game plan. This has always been the game plan for lands.
Yep.
You know, there's things like Glacial Chasm and then recycling that. It's about buying turns until eventually it comes together, and then you strip mine your opponent out of the game or whatever, and you take over from there.
Lands is really a lot of 2 and 3 card combos that come together in different ways. Yes. And that's where we see the experience and the expertise of Dougal really shine.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because he will have so much experience that might not be obvious to someone just picking up this sort of deck for the first time.
Yep.
But for him, he will have seen this all before. He'll know. Vampire Hexmage, we're just having to read there to see, can we take the counters off our One Ring with that?
And can we?
I believe the answer is no.
It's a creature.
I believe it is.
Actually,
no, it might be permanent.
Because it can do it off a Planeswalker.
Because it can Planeswalkers. Right? You're right. It probably can.
Yeah.
We'll bring that one up for you. It is target permanent.
That's
so we can reset our One Ring if we want.
Oh, yeah. See, we're learning stuff live.
The
master.
The really sweet thing you can potentially do is you can activate it, draw 3 with the trigger on the stack, and then take the counters off.
Yeah, that's real good.
Take 0.
That's really nice.
We'll see whether we get there. Raccoon going to come down as well, the Keen-Eyed Curator, this sort of the modern-day scavenging ooze, I guess.
And look at this. We've got ourselves a miniature, you know, Timu Deathrite Shaman fight here that we can engage in. We can engage between Lion Sash and the Keen-Eyed Curator to stop each other from getting counters or growing.
Yeah, Lion Sash, of course, cares about eating permanents to grow. The Keen-Eyed Curator wants Delirium. So a couple different competing priorities, I would say.
Yes. All right, so this Lion Sash is big now, so at least we have a good target for that Mazavith, which we didn't play because we needed to play the Young Lion for mana. But at least next turn we'll have a, if there is a next turn.
I mean, that is the goal at this point. It has to be just let's try to get to next turn. And we saw Volti there. Only one card in hand. We know it's not a great one. Didn't want to crack the Sunbake Canyon there to draw a card. Said, no, I'm going to spend all my mana to grow this Lion Sash.
Yep, absolutely. You can always crack it next turn, but you might as well grow your thing as much as possible. If you draw a removal spell, just keep that pressure going.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing we have to look at is that Hatchery has 3 counters on it. So if Dukes can find a way to put it in the graveyard, going to get 3 1/1s. That could be really valuable. Those are some pretty good blockers.
Yeah, so we do know about this Voice of Victory. So something like Crop Rotation, which would normally be live at doing this at instant speed, we can't do this in Volty's turn. So
yeah, simplifies it a little bit for Volty, trying to work out what could Dukes have.
Yeah.
The range is much narrower.
Yeah. Possibly like a Beseiju. We don't have legendaries. Doesn't do anything.
Not much, really, other than activation of the Keen-Eyed Curator. Not a huge amount represented. 8 life, though, a couple good blockers in play. So
could you block the Lion Sash, first strike damage, then sack, remove the counters from the Lion Sash?
You could.
And that'd kill it.
You absolutely could.
That's pretty nice.
That's a really sweet ability. And then we might see a fight on this. Well, no, actually. Yeah, and there's not that much counterplay to that because Volty can't activate. There's no point where you can add counters before they get, like after they get removed, but before the Lion Sash. Yeah, that's really sweet. So it's actually a great blocker for the Lion Sash.
Yeah.
And then that just leaves the 2 mobilized creatures and that really wide board that we were talking about. I mean, that attack there, if you use that trick to trade the Hex Mage for the Lion Sash, the Keen-Eyed Curator gets to eat the Voice of Victory, and you take 4 damage.
Pretty nice.
It's not bad. Dalcoven Encampment is the land for turn. Not enough mana to activate this one. Duke's going to take a read. Come on, Dukes, that's a land. You don't know that one?
It's somewhere in your deck.
That's definitely not in Duke's deck. That's very much an aggressive land that I don't think is in his list.
We're getting a judge call here, so we're just going to have a little pause.
Absolutely. You know, it's a new card, relatively. There's a lot of Tarkir cards in this Boros deck. 3 different Tarkir cards in play at the moment. Really a set that the Mobilize mechanic especially helped power up, I would say, these sort of red-white aggressive decks.
And they needed it because they were very powerful a couple of years ago when we had the introduction of like Fable of the Mirror Breaker and the Initiative cards.
Initiative creatures,
So we had a bunch of very like powerful mid-range stuff, and they got pointed, and so there's been a yearning for this style of deck. People have been wanting to play aggressive red decks, aggressive white decks again, and Volty's doing her best to bring that to fruition. Yeah,
absolutely. I know Volty has a little bit of a thought that there's a degree of people playing the same old proven decks. We see so much Grixis, so much Esper. These people love the blue mid-range decks, and fair enough, they are a lot of fun to play. You get to cast a lot of spells, have really back and forth games.
Yeah.
But I think talking to Volty, she said perhaps these aggro decks are a little bit underexplored. A little bit like the way in so many Vintage Cubes, Mono Red goes underdrafted because no one wants to be the person playing Mono Red in Vintage Cube. There's a little bit of the same, I think, in some cases in Highlander where people don't want to play the straightforward red aggressive deck.
Yeah, agreed. You can play all these sweet cards. You get an opportunity to play reserve list cards, dual lands, Black Lotus, and how many times can you cast Monastery Swiftspear?
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Your life, you know? And for me, the answer is as many as I can get. I love casting Monastery Swiftspear. I love casting Voice of Victory. I love casting all these spells. So
absolutely, and there's a lot of sweet ones in this deck now. It's not just Jackal Pups anymore. These creatures do so much. I mean, we're talking about the 1-drop there. It's not only effectively a 2-power creature, it also like has removal attached to it, making the token triggers a bunch of your other things. It works with the Skull Clan, but works with a bunch of other things. There's so much more play to these decks than I think there used to be, 10, 15 years ago.
Absolutely, and we mentioned Felia a couple of times. I'm sure we'll mention it all day. Cards like Felia increasing in power level with something like Containment Priest, which Containment Priest traditionally was a very good sideboard card to bring it against Reanimator. It's probably decent against like, Nadu in certain ways or whatever. But having Felia combined with Containment Priest to be like permanent exile is so powerful. Having Containment Priest would say Palace Jailer. We have these cards that are now like layering on top of each other to both disrupt but then permanently get rid of your opponent's cards. And I'm not sure if they're necessarily in this list, but we will see those combinations in the white decks all throughout today.
Yeah, absolutely. And then sometimes you just play a Blood Moon or a Magus of the Moon. Your opponent can't do anything because they're playing in greedy 3-color mana base, and that's also fun.
And sometimes you get locked under your own Blood Moon, and you can exile it for the turn and cast your spells.
That's
and then
true.
It comes back.
Unlock your second white mana. Or Volty has a Comet in her deck. And that's always a fun one to put in play and just say, let's see how we go,
Let's roll some dice.
How many 6s can I roll in a row? Just storm off with my Planeswalker.
So you go.
In this game, though, Volty is perhaps struggling with a little bit more land than she would like. We see the Lion Sash hold back, recognizing that Vampire Hexmage interaction. And we might actually see the Argandra here.
Yeah, so I think the Argandra means I would attack into the Hexmage, I guess. Because if it blocks, you can just...
It looks like...
But
So the 3-3 going to try and eat the voice of victory.
So Volty probably wants to kill the Keen-Eye Curator and doesn't really care about the Hex Mage as much.
The other thing is this Stadium Headliner can be sacrificed as removal as well, with all the mobilized creatures in play now.
Yep. It looks like that's what's happening. Yep, you're going to eat the Keen-Eye Curator before